Hello everyone. Let's review shloka number 70 in Lalita Sahasranamam. Nārāyaṇī nādarūpā nāmarūpa vivarjitā hrīṅkārī hrīmatī hṛdyā heyopādeya varjitā. Before we take a look at the meanings of the namas in this shloka, quickly from shloka 70 onwards, we are now going to look at Devi as the bija mantra. Bijam means seed. So there are several bija mantras and each one is specific for a particular devata. And when you say that bija mantra, you're actually referencing that Devi or that particular god. And each bijam has a specific result that it will achieve for us. And so when bija mantras are usually chanted continuously, so it's a japam. And when somebody does that japam, then they achieve the results of that particular bijam, which we call as fruit. So that is a siddhi. So when somebody repeats it continuously, they achieve mantra siddhi. And that is the getting the results of that particular one. So some of the bija mantras are Om, Aim, Hrim, Kleem. All of those are Shrim. These are all bija mantras. And if you generally look at it, Aim, Hrim, Shrim may not have a specific meaning. It just feels like a jumbling of a particular set of alphabets or letters, right? So, but that denotes a particular goddess. So you take an example now, there are so many letters in every language, right? But when you combine Ra, Di, Ka, suddenly now that it denotes a person, right? That word took on a meaning of its own because now it means someone. And then there is a whole thing about that person, how, our interactions with them, and there is so much more, right? And similarly, when you combine a certain set of letters in Sanskrit, then it now denotes that particular devata. So bija mantras are considered as extremely powerful. They should not be chanted without initiation. And it's always good to get a diksha from the guru because they will know what we are ready for. And because it's all sound, it has to be chanted correctly. The spacing, how long you say it, all of those are very important. So bija mantras are powerful. So we are going to see how Devi is a bija mantra. So let's take a look at the first nama, nārāyaṇī. Nārāyaṇī can be split as nārāyaṇī. Nara means water and ayana means movement or circulation. And if you look at Nara is a water body. So let's take the example of life. Generally, for the life, we refer it as samsara sagaram. Okay? And she is the one who keeps the samsara sagaram going. How so? If you look at the ocean, there are always waves coming and going, right? And so there is constant change that's happening. One wave rises, it reaches the shore and subsides. Another wave comes in behind it, it reaches the shore and subsides. This keeps going on and on and on. Yet, if you look at the ocean as a whole, you feel a certain kind of stillness, right? So we feel like there is a continuity there, a stillness in there. Similarly, if you look at our lives, there is constant creation and dissolution, even from the concept of time, right? A second starts, only when that second ends, the next second starts, right? Yet if you see, we have a linear perception of time. Yesterday this happened, today this is happening, tomorrow I will do this, right? So we have a constant perception of time, a linear perception of time. Yet if you see, that 1 second started, ended, never comes back, right? So who's doing all of that? That constant creation, that dissolution is Lalita's doing, right? So she is responsible for Srishti and Sthiti and Samhara. At the same time, she's also responsible for Mahamaya, which is what gives this perception of everything being connected and the linear time and everything, right? So that is the Maya, which is the concealing of the truth from us, which allows us to engage with this world and help with the creation process. So she is responsible for that as well. And therefore, as someone who ensures that the life keeps moving and there is constant creation, dissolution, yet there is a perception of continuity, she is Nārāyaṇī. And also the other context here is she is the sister of Vishnu. And we saw this earlier, right? How the one ultimate reality became three: Mahalakshmi, Mahasaraswati, and Mahakali. And each one decided to create one male and female with their guna. And Mahasaraswati created Vishnu and Gauri with Sattva guna. And therefore, she is also nārāyaṇī as the sister of Vishnu. And then in Sivananda Lahari, which is also 100 verses written by Adi Shankaracharya, in verse 82, he refers to Vishnu as a half of Shiva. And Vishnu is supposed to occupy the left half of Shiva, which is in Ardhanarishwara, the left half belongs to Parvati. Right? And it is in the left because the heart is in the left. And she is Lokamata. She is deeply compassionate. Her heart always beats for us. So she is occupying the left, saying she is the Shiva's heart. That's where all the compassion originates. So Vishnu is the half of Shiva. In that, Vishnu and Gauri are one and the same. Vishnu and Parvati are one and the same. And therefore, she is also called as nārāyaṇī. The next nama is nādarūpā. Nādam means sound and rūpa means form. So she is in the form of sound. This is straightforward. We have already seen that Lalita's Sukshma Rūpa, which is the subtle form, is the Panchadasi mantra. So the Panchadasi mantra has 15 letters. That's why it is called Panchadasi. And the Vagbhavakuta is her face. The Madhyakuta is from neck up to waist, and the Shakti Kuta is waist down. So she is in the form of sound. So the Panchadasi is nothing but Lalita herself. It denotes Lalita. So when you chant Panchadasi mantra, you're engaging with Lalita. And that's why it's a very powerful mantra. And there is a little bit more to it. The nādarūpā is also linked to the essence of creation. So, originally the universe was just a mass of protons, electrons, and light, right? And then there was a vibration, and it was created by the sound. Then the entire universe manifested. It said that the Big Bang happened after that vibration. And of course, it was not a big bang. Nobody could have heard it, even if humans were alive at that time. But the vibration, however small the sound might have been, there was a sound which became the source of that creation, or which moved the universe to manifest. And therefore, she is that nādarūpā. So, in the tantric tradition, there is a concept of vak. Vak means word or speech. And that word or speech is nothing but the expression of the divine in manifestation. So this entire universe is nothing but mass of sounds. So in the tantric tradition, what they believe is that the actualization of the formless into form is described through the 50 phonemes of Sanskrit, right? So there is from A all the way to Ksha, all the 50 vowels and consonants put together. They actually say how that unlimited reality is getting into a particular form. So each of that 50 is an explosion of Shakti and Shiva in a particular vibration, right? So each one is a form. The Shakti and Shiva interact, and that becomes a form with a particular vibration. So you can think of that as like all the 50 letters are rays of light. Each one has its own sound and it has its own color. And that's what is called as Nadam. Nadam and Rupam. So this means that it is the essence of creation. She is the sound that is the essence of creation. Nāmarūpa vivarjitā. Namam means name. Rupam means form. Vivarjitā means devoid. So she is devoid of a name and form. If you all recall, when we looked at the Uddalaka Aruni story, and when we were looking at Tattvamasi, one of the things that was described by Uddalaka to his son, Shvetaketu, was that the entire universe is nothing but Namarūpam. So, if we wear a jewelry around our wrist, we call it bangle. If we wear a jewelry around our neck, we call it necklace. If we wear a jewelry around our arm, in Tamil we call it vangi, right? And if we wear it in our ears, we call it earring. But essentially, if you see, all the jewelry is made of gold, right? Depending on its utility or depending on how it looks, we give each one a name, right? But the underlying essence within all of that is nothing but gold. So gold can exist even if it's not jewelry, right? Gold can exist on its own because that is the essence of all this jewelry. But these jewelries, gold jewelries, cannot exist without gold, right? You can't make a bangle without gold. There is nothing called bangle that can exist on its own. It has to be made of something. And what it is made of is gold. Like that, all of us in this, and not just human beings, everything in this universe is made of only one thing, which is the universal consciousness. Depending on how it looks or how it behaves, we give it a name, right? If it looks like a deer, we call it a deer. Or if it is a carnivore and hunts a deer, then we call it a lion or a tiger. It has a big mane, therefore it's a lion. And then if it has two legs, a face, two eyes and ears and everything, and can walk straight, we call it human beings. And within that human beings, each one of us has a name, we have a personality. But underlying all of this, we are all made of that same universal consciousness. And she is that universal consciousness, the Parabrahman. And that's why she is devoid of Namam and Rupam, because she is the essence of all of us. The next Nama is hrīṅkārī. hrīṅkārī means she is the form of Hrim, or she is the one who's denoted by Hrim, or she is the embodiment of Hrim. So what is Hrim? Hrim is the bija. We said we'll look at Devi as the bija. So the first bija here is Hrim. And Hrim is made up of ha, ra, ma, and then there is an intonation, im. And that im is usually denoted in Sanskrit as a dot on top of the letter ma, and then we write a dot on top of it. Or some people put a dot and a ardhachandra, half moon under it. So then it is, you can see when you write Om, you will have a ardhachandra there. So that ardhachandra is called as nadabindu. So what does Hrim actually mean? Ha actually refers to Purusha. Purusha is the witnessing presence, right? In this particular case, it denotes Shiva, right? Usually we look at Shiva as the unchanging witness to everything. And then Ra. Ra denotes Prakriti. Prakriti is nature, and it is the changing aspect. It is the dynamic. So what is still is Purusha. The Prakriti is the dynamic, which is what manifests. And usually Prakriti is Shakti. She is the energy of Shiva. So she is Shakti. And generally, it is said that when Prakriti has gunas, it has three gunas. It has Rajas, Tamas, and Sattvika guna. And usually all the gunas are in balance. But when the Purusha permeates the Prakriti, then the gunas go out of balance. And then at that point, the universe manifests. And then each one will have its own guna. Depending on what went out of balance, what is high and what is low, each one will have its own guna. So the Ha is the manifestation. The Ra there is the involution. That means that limitless becoming a limited form, right? And then E, there is Ha, Ra, Hrim, right? Ha, Ra, E. That E is the perfection. Then there is a little bit more added to it. It's not just the Purusha permeating that. There is also a little bit more perfection that it goes through, because at that point it's becoming a specific form. So it is taking on more qualities there. And then Im is the energy and focus that is given just before manifestation, so the objective universe can manifest. So the Ha, Ra, Ma is the manifestation, the involution, the perfection, and then the focus to manifest. Or it is Ha, Shiva, Ra, Prakriti, Ma, which is the Mahamaya, because that's needed for us to manifest into the form and forget that we are the part of reality. And then the Im, which is the focus to manifest. It is the state of the unmanifest just before it's ready to manifest. So you can look at Hrim in those three ways. So it actually denotes creation. So Hrim is also called as Maya Bija. It is all, because that is the creation, right? And a very important principle in creation is Maya. That manifested form is forgetting. It is the ultimate reality. So it is called as Maya Bija. It is also called as Pranava, Shakta Pranava, which means it is like Om. Pranavam is Om, right? And then Om is in the Shaiva tradition. Anybody who worships Shiva, Om is the ultimate. Like that, in Shakta tradition, anybody who worships Shakti, the Hrim is the ultimate. So it is the Shakta Pranava. And it is also called as Bhuvaneshwari Bija. So this Hrim is specifically for goddess Bhuvaneshwari. And last time itself we saw Bhuvaneshwari is a very pleasant goddess. She's always willing to give us something. So when we do Hrim, two things happen. One, our consciousness raises, and then we are able to achieve higher planes of consciousness. Second, she dispels all our sorrows. So whatever we want, that will happen. So hrīṅkārī, the Hrim is the bija that dispels sorrows and raises our consciousness to higher states. Hṛīmatī. Hṛīmatī means someone who is modest. In this context, modest means someone who doesn't show off too much. And we already saw this when we first spoke about Lalita Sahasranamam. For a lot of us, Lalita Sahasranamam could be out in the open, yet it would have never crossed our paths. And then suddenly it comes to us. Because Lalita herself is like that, she will come to us only when we are ready to receive her. It's not something everybody can get. That's why we call it a rahasyam, right? Rahasyam means that it is secretive. And it's not secretive because she doesn't want to give us the blessings or anything like that. She comes to us only when we are ready for it. So if you look at lots of the Srividya tradition, the rituals are all kept a secret because someone who is not in that position to understand will not appreciate it. It comes to us. It's like the Gryffindor sword. It will come to us when we deserve it. So Hṛīmatī is that she is modest and everything about her is secretive and it comes to us only when we are ready for it. hṛdyā. Hṛdyā, plainly we all know hṛdayam means heart. And there are a few ways to look at it. So hṛdyā could be looked at as someone who resides in the heart. Hṛdyā could also be someone who's cherished, beloved, desired, and she's all of those. But a little bit more, the Hṛīm mantra is actually called the heart mantra. So it is supposed to elevate the physical organ called heart, our spiritual heart, and the feelings, which we generally say is heart, right? Compassion, etc. And if you all recall, the spiritual heart, when we saw Bhanu Mandala Vasini, we said that it's a minor chakra called solar chakra, Surya chakra. And in the center of Surya chakra, the Jivatma is there, and that's where Bhuvaneshwari resides. And therefore, that is the solar chakra. So the Hṛīm mantra energizes that solar chakra. That's why she's also hṛdyā. And that's how we are able to get to higher planes of consciousness. And that's how the Kundalini races all the way up there so that we are able to reach that. And in that, she is also the nādarūpā because the Kundalini has a humming sound that's happening. So she is hṛdyā. Heyopādeya varjitā. Heyam means rejecting. Upadeya means to accept. Varjitā means without. She doesn't accept or reject anything, or she is without accepting and rejecting. Remember, in a few shlokas prior, we said she is Purna. Purna means complete. When everything is complete, then there is no need to accept or reject anything. And also, when you add 0 to 0, it is 0. When you subtract 0 from 0, it is 0. So, she doesn't need to accept or reject anything. In that, she is complete, accepting or rejecting everything. And actually, if you take a step back and think about it, this is an amazing way to live. Accepting or rejecting anything, that means we can suspend our judgments. And if we suspend all our judgments, majority of our misery will go away. Then we are able to see everything as it is, and therefore a little bit of the maya, the clouding of our buddhi also is gone. We're almost at 20 minutes. A quick story to emphasize the importance of the Bija mantra. Last time we saw how the clean mantra was rewarded. A similar story related to that. Once upon a time, there was a Brahmin called Devadatta. His wife was Rohini. Devadatta did not have children for a very long time. So he did the Putra Kameshti Yajna and wanted to get a baby. And therefore, in the Putra Kameshti Yajna, he called Yajnavakya and he was the officiating priest. And there are many roles in the when they do the Yajna. There are people who perform the hota. They're called as hota. They put the offerings into the fire. There are people who decide the space and measure it out. And then there are people who sing the hymns. So these are all many roles. And there was one person called Govila who was responsible for singing the hymns. So the yajna began and the Govila was singing. And on that particular day, somehow the Govila was a little bit out of breath. And because of that, when he was singing the hymns, the intonation was not right. And we all know, right? Vedas and all have to be pronounced exactly. And Devadatta, being a Brahmin himself, quickly found out that this Govila, because of out of breath, was not saying the hymns correctly. And he got very upset because he's been longing for a child and he's doing this yajna, so he doesn't want anything to go wrong. So he got upset and he yelled at the Govila and said that, can't you do this properly? The Govila got a bit offended. He's actually very well known for chanting and singing very well. But that day, it was just something beyond his control. Anybody can go out of breath, and he was being yelled at for something that was not in his control. And the Govila really got upset, and then he told Devadatta, you're doing this yajna for getting a son, but I'm going to curse you now that son will be an illiterate. How much ever you try to teach him, he will not learn anything. And he will be someone who is a very unintelligent person. Which completely shocked Devadatta because as you all know, in those days, people were categorized into groups according to their profession. And we said Devadatta as a Brahmin. And the whole responsibility of the Brahmins is to go learn the Veda, teach it to other people, and make sure everybody is able to lead a spiritual life. So if someone cannot learn, then that person cannot be a Brahmin. So it's as good as not having a son. So Devadatta was completely shocked by the curse. So he immediately apologized to Govila and he said, what I did was wrong, but what you cursed me with is just too big a burden to bear. Please don't do this to me. How can I have a son who cannot learn anything? Govila also immediately felt sorry. He didn't intend to curse and he came to conduct the yajna to get a son, and to do this curse is not fair. So then he said, don't worry, that son will later on change. So then with that, the yajna was proceeding. That was completed successfully. After some time, Rohini conceived and she gave birth to a boy, and they called the boy Uttaya. And Uttaya grew up, and when he reached a certain age, they did their Upanayanam, and then they sent Uttaya to the Gurukulam. And the curse of Govila was coming true. Uttaya could not learn anything. And he's now become 12 years old and he can't even do Sandhya Vandanam properly. Now word is gotten out everywhere that Devadatta's son cannot learn anything. He's illiterate. He's a very dumb fellow and all that. And that caused some tension. And so the Devadatta and his wife were a little bit upset, and they were pushing the child to learn more. And it caused a lot of tension, and he yelled at the child. And Uttaya got very frustrated. He was only 12 years old, and every day it was about study, study, study. You're dumb. You don't know anything. He said, this is getting very out of control. I don't want to live here anymore. And he ran away. And he went far away, and he went to a forest. It was near the Ganges River. And he stayed there. He did not know how to fend for himself. He didn't know how to cook. He doesn't know anything. So, but he just lived nearby. He made a hut for himself. And then whatever fruits or root, whatever he will get, he will eat that. The time just kept on passing. And then he was also growing up. And the people who lived in the villages around that forest came to know that there was somebody living here. And for them, he looked like a saint. So they thought he was a Muni. And one thing that Uttaya decided is, he came far away, doesn't know anything, and he cannot learn anything. But he decided one thing he will uphold always is that he will only speak the truth. So all these villagers knew that this Muni always speaks truth, so they called him Satyavrata. So Satyavrata was living there, and time passed by, and now he is like a 24-year-old man. And one day when he was in his hut, a hunter was coming into the forest. The hunter came for hunting, and he found a boar, and he put the arrow on the boar. The arrow hit the boar, and the boar was bleeding, but it didn't die. So the boar was running, and the boar came into Satyavrata's place, where his hut is. And when the boar came and it was bleeding, it was looking at Satyavrata. And when Satyavrata saw the boar, he felt this deep compassion. He felt really sorry because it was badly wounded. It was bleeding. And so Satyavrata somehow wanted to protect that particular boar. And he didn't know what to say, but immediately he was saying, I. And he was pointing to the boar to run away. And he heard the hunter coming in the background. So he wanted the boar to run away. And the hunter was searching for the boar everywhere. And then he came into the place where Satyavrata is. And then the hunter asked him, did you see a boar that came? I hit the arrow, and today I wanted to feed the boar for my children. And did you see it? Now Satyavrata is in a moral dilemma, right? On one hand, he's taken this vow of truth, and therefore he should only speak the truth. He saw the boar was hiding in the bush, and therefore he should tell that to the hunter. But on the other hand, the boar came inside the hut, and it was looking at him, and he meant that as it was seeking refuge, which means it came and asked for asylum, and he granted it by asking it to go hide in the bush, which means then he can't betray the boar, right? So now it's a dilemma. Which one should he do? If he betrays the boar, then he has upheld the vow, but he has done something that is not right. And if he doesn't tell the truth to the hunter and says, oh, let the boar hide, then he is let go of the only thing he has done in his entire life, which is to speak the truth. And therefore, he was in a dilemma, but suddenly all the poetry started to flow out of him, and he said, he who sees doesn't speak, and he who speaks does not see. In Tamil, it's called as Kandavar Vindilar, Vindavar Kandilar. So there is a saying like that. So immediately the hunter couldn't understand anything, and then he thought, I don't understand this man, and he went away, and then the boar was saved. So what had happened, and how come Satyavrata, who doesn't know anything, started to speak in poetry and all of this? It's because when he saw the boar, he said, I. That was short form for Aim. Aim is the Saraswati Bija. And just with even saying that incorrectly, Saraswati awarded all the knowledge, and therefore he started to say all the poetry. And with that, Satyavrata started to say lots of poetries, and his name became very popular. And Devadatta came to realize that his son is residing here, and he took him back home, and he was united with his parents. So that is the effect of Bija Mantra. Even if we say it incorrectly, Devi awards us the benefit. But Bija Mantras should be said correctly, and they should be said only with the initiation from the Guru. So that's all for today. Thank you.